you guys have underestimated Iran.
You think we couldn't flatten Gaza in 2 days?
Israel dragged United States into this war.
The Indian people have to understand that we live in a jungle with bad people,
Yeah.
and the world doesn't want India. We need a strong India. India is not just about that. They're in the verge of becoming a leading empire in the world.
How was it like the first day in Gaza? Some of the people who served in the IDF, they have used women and children as target shields and have killed civilians just for fun. Is there any reality to it, considering you have served there for almost a year? We share a common enemy, and the enemy's name is Pakistan. Give me one word for them as an Israeli soldier and Israeli citizen.
They're one of the biggest scumbags in world's history, and
All right, Yuda. First of all, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. My
hello, thank you.
namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste to
Thank
you
you
as
for
well.
having me.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
All right, all right. So we'll just dive into the topics because we have limited time today. So in that case, from your perspective, what do you think about this current war in the Iran, and what is the end game for Israel here?
I think the war with Iran is. I hope it will be a wake-up call for the world. I think it's not. I think it's a wake-up call for very few countries, very few. I'm shocked to see how the world, and it's okay because I understood that woke and the left only want peace and everything is okay if we smile.
Yeah,
But
that's not how it
we
works.
Israel, yeah, and Israel is fighting now a huge, big, strong, evil empire of radical religion. Not there are beautiful, beautiful parts of Islam, but unfortunately, radical Islam is uh, saying online and in front of millions of people, you either become like us or we'll chop your head off.
True.
Now we're trying to do it to the head of the snake and fight the biggest head of the snake. Um, and I couldn't be more prouder to be a part of the IDF. I couldn't be more prouder to serve with such brave people. I wouldn't want to continue serving for 150 days at the age of 39, but I will go in 1,000 more times when needed, when needed.
All right. And so I was asking you that in your perspective, what is the end goal for Israel in Iran? Like, what are you guys hoping to do there, even if it's for the rest of the world? And obviously, like radical Islam is a threat to the entire world. We know that different places around the world. We have, of course, Pakistan as well along with us. So in that case, what are you guys hoping to achieve in the end? Like, because for Americans, it has been very different. Like every other week, they're changing the goals. First, it was to do the regime change, then it was to destroying the naval capabilities or the nuclear capabilities. So, but I think Israel must have a very clear goal considering it's right across the border.
Nick, Nick,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that, yeah.
It's very simple. Stop funding, building, strategizing operations to destroy the state of Israel and to harm the Jewish people. Stop. The radical Islam world has been trying since 48, the war in
Yeah,
67, 73, 85, 94, October 7th.
yeah.
Um, just stop. Stop. You know, Qatar has given so much money and Iran,
Yes.
you know, and instead of building beautiful hotels and retreats areas and schools in Gaza Strip, which could have been beautiful, they spent 25 years building tunnels. And on October 7th, monsters from the hell literally came out from those tunnels and raped, burnt, and murdered innocent people, older and younger. Not even IDF soldiers. That was the second part.
Yeah.
The first one. So what's Israel trying to gain? To try to tell the world and radical Islam, this is what happens when you try to destroy the only Jewish country, the state of Israel.
Yeah. And I think India and Israel are probably the only two countries who can understand the threat of radical Islam very well, because we have noisy neighbors from all sides, unlike the rest of the world, which usually have good neighborhoods and they feel like it's not a threat towards them. But they haven't been to the parts of the world where we live. So I think that's also plays a part in that thinking, I guess.
Yep.
And recently, like Donald Trump and the United States have said that they are, when they haven't said it directly, but they are saying that, or they are considering, they're willing to put boots on the ground to either to take the Kharg Island or even to invade mainland Iran. Will there be Israeli troops as well in that mission, according to you?
गाइज ये कोई ऐड नहीं है, बस एक ऑनेस्ट रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप सब्सक्राइब किया करो यार. 99% ऑफ यू वॉच द पॉडकास्ट, लव द पॉडकास्ट, शेयर द पॉडकास्ट, बट आप सब्सक्राइब नहीं करते हो. उससे होता क्या है ना, इफ यू सब्सक्राइब इट विल क्रिएट अ स्नोबॉल इफेक्ट दैट विल अलाउ मी टू हैव बेटर गेस्ट, सो आई कैन गिव यू बेटर कॉन्वर्सेशंस. सो आपके हित में भाई, तो प्लीज सब्सक्राइब. एंड नाउ लेट्स गेट बैक टू द एपिसोड.
I'm a simple Jew, Nick. I'm a
Yeah,
simple soldier.
yeah,
I promise you one thing, authenticity and honesty. Sorry, honesty. I don't know. I know that I live in a country and I'm part of an army
yeah,
that will do what is needed
yeah.
to protect their people and the country.
So if they ask you to go, obviously you will go. But you don't know as of
I
now.
I went I went at the age of 37. Uh, I'm not 18 anymore.
Yeah,
My body's a bit slower. I'm a bit more tired. My heart is broken after what they've done to us to October
October 7th.
7th in, but my spirit is not just not broken, it's stronger than ever. And I went into Gaza, I went into Lebanon, and I will go wherever my country and my army sends me to. If it's Iran, doesn't matter. I'm there.
All right, all right. And I think it is, I think even Prime Minister Netanyahu said the same thing, that if you really want to do, like, eliminate this threat from within, we are going to need like boots on the ground. So I think eventually that is going to happen, whether it's American boots or Israeli boots or maybe both. I think it's inevitable if this goes on.
I agree.
Yeah. And but ever since the war has started, because we spoke about this earlier, right? Is that a lot of sentiment has been building towards or against Israel rather after the October 7th attack. So after immediately there was a lot of support for the state of Israel and the Jewish people and everything. And then afterwards, whether it is propaganda or like Al Jazeera or networks like that, they have made it seem like Israelis are the bad guys. And since then, have you noticed that like there is a narrative shift towards against Israel? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed it, and it's honestly, I wasn't surprised that we were attacked on October 7th by radical religious monsters.
Yeah,
I grew up with it my whole life, but to see intellectual dishonesty, the best universities in the world,
yeah.
Harvard, Yale, Oxford, different prime ministers, Spain, Hollywood actors,
Oh yeah, Hollywood is the
it,
worst in
inf
that.
it influencers with 20 million followers, 10 million followers, not debating, not inviting us to speak, lying, making things up. That was the big surprise. I wouldn't even say a surprise. That was the biggest disappointment. That was the biggest understanding about how media of the world works, who shifts what, and that I guess that um, Qatar, I don't know even know who else have excelled, and the amount of money and aid that was gone into all these people
I
and
think Chinese are
universities have
also involved in that.
China, yeah, 100%. TikTok,
TikTok,
you
yeah,
know,
especially in the US.
it's not easy. It's not a good feeling before we scroll, before I go to sleep, I scroll. I try not to scroll too much and promise myself to keep it for 20 minutes. But it's not easy to see someone with 21 million followers saying that Israel needs to be destroyed. their genociders and violence. And you know, this war could have ended on October 10th. In
Yeah,
3 days, Israel has the ability. Look what they're doing in Iran. You think we couldn't flatten Gaza in 2 days? You
yeah.
think we
They
couldn't?
could have if we wanted to, for sure.
We have the aid from America and we have the permission, and we could do, if we were another army, we would have. But I could go to bed proud. I could go to bed with a full heart that I'm part of not just a good army, but
Morally superior.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they will continue no matter what we do. They'll continue once it's we're starving them, once it's genocide, once it's Rafah, once it's for the last 55 years they've been terroring us. Um, so many wars, and we're here to stand, and that's what really bothers them. And we're here to sing Hatikva, our anthem, proudly. And even though there's
Yeah.
one Jewish state surrounded by tens of very successful Muslim countries
Yeah.
who choose what, no. And every time it's something else. Once it's the settlements, once we're fighting back too strong, how dare we to attack Lebanon and then Iran and to go after the Hamas? How dare we? Innocent kids are dying.
Hmm.
Those innocent kids in 10 years from now, a lot of them, not all of them. But when I was 10, was 18 years ago, I
Yeah.
used to see camps, summer camps of Hamas with kids who are they're 12. And I remember the world saying, don't do anything to them. They're just 12. You
Hmm.
know how many people who raped and burnt adults and kids in October 7th were part of those summer camps? And I think the world is not preparing for the fact that there are 100, 200, 300 million radical men from a very problematic religion, which part of it is beautiful, part of it is special. You want numbers? Let's say that 100 million, 900 million Muslims in the world are good people and they want to work hard and they want to make a living and education and they move to Europe or other countries for a second chance. No one is asking why they move and leave their countries. But there are 200, 300, 400 million extreme men from Al Qaeda,
Yeah.
ISIS, Hamas, Iran being funded by China and many other countries who are saying, if you don't become like us, we'll chop your head off.
Yeah. It's either with us or against us, that kind of a thing that is
Correct.
going on. Yeah. And in terms of Iran war, like I feel like the United States and the Israelis, I mean that's my opinion, but you can tell me if you don't agree with that. I feel like you guys have underestimated Iran at least one way or another because no one thought at least that they would attack their neighboring Muslim nations or they would, choose an economic war as well by closing or like blockading the Strait of Hormuz. Do you think that's the case? That have you guys underestimated their capabilities?
I think I wouldn't want to say underestimate because Israelis always understand that we have enemies surrounding us, always.
True.
Um, so you don't underestimate, but you really want to have a few years of quiet and to celebrate your holidays
Hmm.
and to be able to fly and to work hard and to continue excelling your career and to building a family, which
Yeah.
hopefully I'll do soon. But you don't, I don't know, we spoke only for 10 minutes. You
Yeah.
saw my bio. You could see the guys I fought with. Most of us would love to go back to their houses, their work, their
Live a
clinics, their
normal
law
life.
firms. Yeah, live what Western society and democracy, talks about all the time. Live and let live and let people do what they want. And unfortunately, there are people who, as in this moment when me and you are speaking, are planning to do horrible things in horrible countries to people who don't agree with them. So I think I never thought that Iran was so involved in such a deep level in
Mm.
trying to destroy the state of Israel. I always knew that they were helping with funding, but I didn't
And
understand the depth
rhetorical
of.
warfare as well, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't understand how October 7th was literally drone funded, practiced in their field, in their homeland. the amount of money they put in the internet and with very and also with Qatar
Yeah,
to
Qataris as well. Yeah,
there's a reason, Nick, why on October 8th, a day after this, before Gaza, there were hundreds of students all over the world chanting Free Palestine.
true.
Um, bef so I underestimate them a little, and but it was in the name of hoping for a normal life.
Yeah. I think even like we all know that Qatar is even like hosted the leaders of Hamas in all these, mansions, beautiful mansions, while the people they are claiming to support in Palestine, they live in like such a dire conditions comparatively, right? And even like there are multiple reports that Hamas terrorists are actually also trained in Pakistan as well, if you can believe that. Like they also get a lot of support there from as well. But are you little bit concerned that the new Ayatollah, the son of Ayatollah Khamenei, the Mojtaba Khamenei, are you concerned that he is because he's more radical than his father, that maybe this is not going the way it was supposed to go?
Yes, but I live with that concern since I'm in first grade, since I'm
Yeah,
six. There's always a new radical person when it comes to radicalism. I'm more
yeah.
concerned about Europe and where Europe is going, a
Hmm.
very important continent. I feel okay with most of America. I really, especially India. I think Europe has lost their
Its
identity.
way.
I think
Yeah.
their way. I think they have no clue who they are, their history. They forget that they're the country that in Second World War, one person, not the classic Viking, short, chubby, Winston Churchill knew exactly what evil looked like and was able to save the world together with the Americans to understand what Hitler is and what he stands for. I think they forgot that part of who they are, and they just want to live in a kumbaya. Everything's okay, and let's just smile to the world.
Fairyland,
And
basically.
yeah, if you're weak, and that Israel and the Jews are too strong and the Palestinians are too soft or too small, and we're the bad guys. Okay, they forget about almost 200 terrorist attacks in the name of Allah in the
Yeah,
last 20 years in Europe. Okay, yeah, I didn't take a truck in Nice and drove over 29
yeah,
innocent people. I
yeah.
didn't go into a music festival and gun to death 99 people. I didn't take an airplane and crashed it into the World Trade Center. Um,
Mumbai as well.
so I'm very afraid with where Europe is more than Iran and Israel, to be honest. We'll
And I
be
think,
okay, Nick. Is the state of Israel is going nowhere. We're going to continue standing and we continue singing our anthem and celebrating in our holidays, even with a broken heart.
yeah,
Even with a broken heart, we will continue standing here. My grandparents survived Auschwitz, and 10 years later, there was a country built, less. And 40 years later, their kids, my mother, left the Upper West Side of New York and
yeah,
moved to Israel, to Jerusalem. I'm uh, I'm nervous for what Iran will continue doing in this world, but I'm not more about Europe, less about
yeah,
Israel.
yeah. And I think since you brought up World War II, I think one of the most silly arguments I've heard since October 7 is that just because there are more Palestinians dead, that automatically makes them the good guys. But if that is the logic, then by that standard, there were more dead Nazi Germany soldiers or even more dead German people in the World War than Brits. So by that logic, like Nazis are the good guys.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I mean that is such a silly argument to make, to be very honest with you. But also because I think you were born in America, right?
New York.
New
Yep.
York,
New
yeah,
York.
New York, yeah. So as someone who shares the American identity as well as the Israeli identity, do you feel like there is a lot of speculation going on that Israel dragged United States into this war against Iran? Sorry. Do you see any reality in that? Not to mention anything speculative, but just your opinion.
It's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard in my life. The biggest empire the history of ever. I don't think you'll ever have an empire like the United States of America
Yeah,
in army, in technology, and for better and worse. Not everything is perfect with American and American
like any
values.
country.
Correct, but they did fight evil twice, First World War and Second World War, and saved us. Um, I think it's a brilliant way of the left and the
Yeah,
woke and all those people to make the world believe that America is a small country with a small leader who is being pulled by the big Israeli. Donald Trump is Donald Trump. We all
yeah,
know who he is. We all know who America is. We all know they don't do anything if they don't want
they
to.
don't want to do.
So
They are the global
so
hegemon, so we can't
yeah,
bully them.
it's just another headline, Nick, that is amazing for the New York Times
Hmm.
and for other um, people who have no clue who they are to say, even this
Hmm.
is because of Israel. Israel is so strong and manipulative that they were able to convince one of the only normal countries who understands exactly what the potential of radical Islam could do to the world.
Yeah, true. And like there are people like Tucker Carlson who say, like, he recently made a statement that because there is a lot of negative behavior towards Israel with the American public, specifically young people. That's the reason why India and Israel are getting close together, because Israel needs a new superpower to, get along with, to help with. Not actually understanding that we go way, way, way back than, I mean, just silly argument, to be honest. And from someone who is supposed to be really credible person.
So if you don't mind, because you're very quick and your questions are very and it's very political and
Yeah.
army oriented,
Yeah.
I will answer that question in a very emotional, spiritual way, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. Works.
People who claim that the connection between India and Israel is just in the last few months because of the interest of Israel, or it's good for the Prime Minister of India, are idiots and they don't know the history. One, since I'm 10 years old, since I'm 10, I know soldiers who finished the army, my sister's best friends, their husbands, my sister. The amount of Israelis who spent months and years in India, feeling at home there, connecting to the spirituality of the Indian people, their culture, their weddings, their being. When my sister came back from India, she gave me a book about Indian wisdom, about Indian religion. There are gurus I watch on
Yeah.
YouTube. Not everything they say is um, the truth,
Yeah.
but when I met Revital from Holy Moses,
Yeah.
and when I read about this guru who says to me in Israel, he says to me, Yehuda, I met him.
Yeah.
And out of respect for him, I won't say his name. He said, Yehuda, one could be religious, one could be spiritual without religion. When you eat, you have to respect food. When you have animals, you have to respect the animals. When you work, when you look at the sun, you have to understand and respect the nature. He said to me 10 years ago, you have to walk slow, you have to speak slow, you have to have respect to your words. He changed my life. This smart, honest, and he talked to me about happiness and about not happiness, about light and dark. And there are so many Israelis who, after their army service, spend a half a year in India because they feel at home, they feel respected, they feel that there are people who look into their eyes and see the difference between good and worse. And I could only say that I couldn't be more honored that a country and a culture like India, who most of them understand exactly what's going on. And I hope they have the potential to be a leading world power like America.
Yeah.
But because they're so good here, because they live and let live, they don't want to start doing these kinds of wars. And I told this a few times. The Indian people have to understand that we live in a jungle with bad people, and
Yeah.
the world doesn't want India. We need a strong India. And I could only hope that the next generation of India will understand that, like an American, you're the big brother of the world who will make sure that
Yeah,
evil. I think you understand what I'm saying. I'm speaking from here,
yeah,
not from here, and from being 37 years uh, deeply mushfa, affected by Indian cultures,
yeah,
and people who say that uh, are just ridiculous,
yeah.
and and that's it.
And I think even in that case, like people forget or maybe they choosefully ignore that like we harbored like about 50,000 Jews when the persecution in Europe began in the Second World War. And ever since then, Israel has been a gift that keeps on giving. Like you guys helped us even when we did not, had any diplomatic relations. Like in the 62, in the 65 wars for us, like with the Pakistanis and the Chinese, and even in the Kargil war in 98, 99, like you guys not just on a cultural level, but even in terms of like security, we go way back, and these people just choosefully ignore that for their political gains, I guess.
Because of the Indian culture
Yeah,
and because I've met so many, and
yeah,
this is not just an, I feel, Nick, and I know the average Indian civilian who's never been to Israel has more knowledge about the conflict and understanding of what's going on than an expert Harvard professor for the
true.
Middle East.
True. That is spot on because we see the threat every single day. Just like maybe not at the scale as you guys, of course, because it's still a very small country surrounded by a lot of bad countries, more or less. But we also see that threat because we have also been victims of Islamic terrorism for decades. And I think ever since Prime Minister Modi has come in, I think we have really, took our stance and actually built a strong relationship with the people who share similar issues as us, just like Israel.
I could be very cynical.
Yeah,
To see Prime Minister Modi come to Israel. There's a beautiful phrase in Israeli Bible says, and it's one word, hineni.
Hineni.
Hineni is when, yeah, Abraham says to God when he's commanding him to do something very, very um, tough
Yeah,
about his son. Abraham says, hineni, which means I am here. I am here. Nothing else. I am here. I'm physically here. You know, when your good friend is in need, or your parents, or sometimes just showing up, Hineni means the world. And to
yeah,
see the prime minister of one of the most important countries in the world, a leading empire who's growing, to come to Israel during war, to step out, to see him spending a few days in our country, and to saying in his way, Hineni, I am here to visit. It was one of the best days of my life. It made me feel so good, and that there are still good people out there who understand what's going on.
true, true. And I think one of the things that I appreciated about his visit to, and what I appreciate about the Israeli people is that they are so nationalistic that even if they have some disagreements with the Prime Minister Netanyahu, they choose to, ignore or like walk out of his address. But when Prime Minister Modi, came back in, then they all came back in, which is exactly opposite of what happens here. Because here, people who are on the left or people who are in the opposition in the country right now, their hate for Prime Minister Modi and his right wing politics, so to speak, has turned them into hating the very country they live in. But like, but at the same time, that's why I admire Israeli people because they keep their national interest above everything else, which is something to learn from. To be very honest with you.
I appreciate that.
Yep, yep. And so everyday Israelis, right? Everyday Israelis who are maybe not aware about our friendships and everything, how do they feel India? Because in India, I'll tell you that maybe 60-70% of the people they are very pro-Israel, people who obviously voted for Prime Minister Modi. And then there is the opposition who does not like Israel. And they are not even if I tell them to point out where Palestine is on the map, they won't be able to do that. But they will just, try to hate Israel just for the sake of it. is there, are you guys together when it comes to, loving India, or is there also divide there in the Israeli public?
Not at all. I think, and this is again going to emotions as opposed to fact. There
Yeah.
are so many soldiers, veterans, who their trip after the 3 years of combat have went, have fun, and healed
Hmm.
in India. It's almost like one of the most Israeli things to do has become to go to India. Did you understand what I just
Yeah, yeah,
said?
yeah. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
W- w- People who say I'm going to India
It's
after
very typical.
my service,
Yeah.
no, it just shows how Israeli you are. You understand how
Oh, yeah,
deep
yeah.
in the nuance. It's
Yes.
like me wearing the famous Israeli boots here.
Yeah.
These.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It's very Israeli. It has become
That
very
ingrained.
Israeli to go to India. 90%, if not more, of the Israeli people, when they hear India,
Yeah.
it's like it's like drinking water after a fast. There's like we trust these people. We
Yeah.
trust the culture. We trust their airports not to give us a. We trust our kids going there for a half a year or a year. You know how many times my sister was in India and my parents were like, they were worried that something will happen, in the plane, whatever. But so many
Yeah.
people go, and there's a lot of respect, a lot of love, a lot of gratitude, appreciation. I think that more Israelis now are understanding that India is not just about that,
Yeah.
and they're in the verge of becoming a leading empire in the world, a
True.
world leading, and that is just a good feeling to have, that such a um, important country. Because 20 years ago, and I'll be very honest with you, it was just a country you flew to after the army.
Yeah.
But that's not that
It
anymore.
anymore. Yeah.
There are so many yishuvim, places like moshavim, kibbutzim,
Yeah.
areas in Israel where the Indian culture is deeply part of the kibbutz, of the area, where people are going to do ceremonies that you do in Indian weddings. It
Wow. Okay.
it it, it infiltrated so much into people's life. So I don't think people in India understand that, but for Israelis, now they're just even moving from, it's not just a special culture and in an amazing place,
Yeah.
it's also a special and important friend.
I want to speak to you a little bit about Gaza, because obviously you're served there. If I'm not wrong, you have served about 180 days, right? Since October 7th in Gaza.
255.
255. All right. All right. So that is a lot. So, but have you been there before the October 7th in Gaza?
No, I just read in a book, but Nick, that there were years that Israelis used to go there and buy from the market, and there were a lot of friendships and coexisting.
Yeah.
And then also radical Islam people came and took over Gaza and turned it into a terror haven.
Yeah, true. And like when you first went there after October 7th, how was it like the first day in Gaza?
The truth, scary, petrifying.
Walk me
I'm
through
not.
that. Walk me through that feeling if you can.
There's not. Yeah. There's not much to say. It's just you're 35. Sorry, 6, almost 7.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't have the best gear. Well, the IDF, for better and worse. You're in a Hummer that has been on the streets for 35 years or more. I have an M16, a helmet, and you know that there are some very easy, you could not come back.
Yeah.
I was part of a logistical convoy. That was my part for most of my time there, which is to bring all the logistical needs for a combat platoon whenever they need it, wherever. So it's water, fuel, food. If it's in the winter,
Weapons. Yeah.
new dry clothes. If you're creative, you bring them stuff from their kids and presents. but it's ammunition. So you have to be in charge of that convoy. You have five, six, seven different trucks, big one, small one, and you have to go and fuel the tanks and the Hummers and give them food. And yeah, to go through that border of that, that famous tractor
Yeah.
in the fence.
Yes. Yes.
That's where I went 7 days later. It's
Wow.
scary.
Seven
You
days
know
after the
that.
October 7th.
Yeah, 8 days, seven,
8
eight.
days. Wow.
I don't know exactly the date, but I have it. Yeah, yeah. The literally a few days after, and you're going there, and it's pitch dark. It's 2 a.m.
Wow. Very emotional as
You.
well.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah. On one hand, I'm extremely, extremely proud. I am doing something my grandparents in Auschwitz didn't have the opportunity to protect themselves to attack. They were led like animals to concentration camps and then to death camps
Yeah.
because they were Jewish. And here, 80 years later, their grandson with uniform, with a gun, is saying, I'm not just running away, I'm going after them. This is what happens to the people who do harm, bad things to Jews. 80 years later, not 100 years. So even though it's petrifying, I think to be a Jew is to acknowledging fear, but overcome it. And there were times that I was petrified. That's the truth. But I'm proud to say that me and my commanders and the people I was led by and led, it was such an honor. And we overcame it together.
Yeah. And like areas such as like which are dense as Gaza, how does IDF differentiate between Hamas, the people who support Hamas but won't pick up the guns themselves, and then regular civilians who maybe not like Hamas or maybe they don't want any part in it? Because everyone kind of looks the same and they want it to be that specifically, so that you guys might end up killing people who are not terrorists, right? Like, how do you differentiate between these groups?
It's very hard, and it's very hard to fight people who are so manipulative and have zero care about life.
Yeah,
And they'll use hospitals and kids and women, and some of them they'll threat them. Some of them they do very manipulative stuff to confuse us. We all wear uniform all the time.
yeah,
We're not always fighting people who are wearing uniform, vice versa.
true.
Sometimes we see men who are wearing women's clothing and they'll approach the border and then they'll do harm stuff because they knew that they were able to advance 200 meters more because they're a woman, or at least they
Yeah.
look like that. There's always manipulative games that they do. Um, yeah, always.
Oh, yeah, to confuse the IDF so that they can play, the victim card, more or less.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Not to play devil's advocate, but there are multiple reports from different countries which say that IDF, not all the IDF, but some of the people who served in the IDF, they have used women and children as target shields and have killed civilians just for fun. Not that I believe in these reports, but is there any reality to it, considering you have served there for almost a year?
No, listen, for almost since the beginning of the state of Israel, no matter which war we fought and which operation we've done and how careful we were, there's always a brilliant way of the media to say, and not just the media, to make us the bad guys, to convince the world that we are evil and genociders always.
To twist it.
And yeah, even though we have the ability to flatten Gaza in 2 days and
Yeah,
Lebanon, and the world knows we can. But look what we're doing in Iran. We could do it in Gaza
Gaza.
in 2 days. But we have our truth and our values, no matter what they say. And like people have been saying lately, I prefer to be unpopular and alive than the opposite. To
True.
answer your tough question, and I
Yeah.
understand it, out of 99% of the combat soldiers I met, fought, was led by, I have met 99% good people, honest people who want to go back to their house, to their lives, and continue with their life. And when they attack, they do it in the most careful way there is. I have a platoon commander who I admire, who's 5 years younger than me. He's a father of two. His name is Gonen.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more proud to be led by someone like him. He told us in the first time we went into Gaza, he said, "We are going after these monsters and we will attack and we will fight and we will do our best. But a soldier in the IDF soldier who has the Jewish history behind him and Israel in front of him first thinks how he saves lives before he takes life." I know it sounds funny. I know it sounds cliche, but that's the truth. And the same commander I had when I was 18 in the army said exactly the same thing. That's how we are taught. That's how we brought up. I was taught, grew up in a house with two parents who said, "We wish you won't go to the IDF," when I was in first grade, and you will continue doing other things. But if you do it well, do it respectfully. And to answer your question shortly, I maybe one out of 1,000 wants to be in this war and wants to fight. But I didn't meet one soldier who overbehaved badly, violently. And maybe the enemy takes advantage of that and they know how we are sensitive to life, to women, to children. That's why they hide under hospitals
Yeah. And
and they
schools as
hide
well.
in women costumes and they take kids with them. And that's what they do. And then when we fight back, we
Yeah.
are the evil.
True.
So I understand the question. I understand that you're trying to be honest, and that's okay to both sides. But in the end of the day, there's one side, Israel's side, the good side, and we're not going anywhere. And we will
And,
continue singing our anthem Hatikva and Lechadodi, our Friday night service, and the world will continue calling us bad names and accusing us and for what's going on and not radical Islam.
and I think to support your statement, I think the combatant to civilian ratio has been the lowest that has ever been in Gaza. It is one combatant to two civilians as collateral damage, which is actually the best achieved by any army ever in the history of conflict. So even that statistic itself actually proves that obviously Israel is not killing civilians for fun, but there are so many reports, and these people, I think they do that to turn the world against Israel for their own, I think, political gains and whatnot. And I think there is a lot of anti-Semitism as well. Uh, I'm sure of it.
I promise you one thing, Nick. One thing I'll promise you in this podcast
Yeah,
with 100% exclamation marks.
yeah,
I promise you that the reason that there are more bodies, our beautiful boys, lying down in the holy mountain of our Herzl, where our boys are buried, there are many of them there because of the values of the IDF and the Jewish people. And I don't care how many people will mock us, and the left and the woke, and
yeah.
people all over Europe. I don't care. I know this with all my heart that there are so many people, brave soldiers, young and adults, who are lying down in Har Herzl because they thought twice before shooting, because there was a kid or a woman, because they hesitated, because they weren't sure, because
Mhm.
the other side is so manipulative. I know this for a fact from families I had to visit, from neighbors I grew up with and lost their sons. We
Yeah,
lost sons to this war because of our Jewish values and
true.
what it means to be an Israeli combat soldier. So they could
Yeah.
continue mock us. I will continue going to those graves once a year, kissing them and respecting them for being the bravest, being the kindest combat soldiers the world ever had.
Walk me through like one of the most intense or like dangerous missions that you have served in Gaza, if you can, without, declassifying something that you're not supposed to.
After 170 or 175 days, we on Friday we were supposed to bring new ammunition, new fuel, new water, Shabbat food
Yeah.
into a zone where we eventually found out that the hostages were some of the hostages were literally there, and near Sajaiya. Um, that was just starting to go in that area. You understand that you're in a whole different area than the other areas you were part of. In the last 170 days. It was a
Yeah.
different, just the driving lanes, the bombs that going off near you. It was just, it was night and it was rainy and it
Oh,
was just
that's the
scary.
worst. Yeah.
The driver was scary. I was scared. It's scary, but
Like a movie come to life in a way.
it like Saving Private Ryan
Yeah.
light, but um and you know any second from now someone could come out of the ground and you know it's one of the most difficult areas. You know that a month before 21 soldiers were killed in that area. It's petrifying and I've never felt ashamed to admit that it's scary. I think it's what makes us human as opposed to our enemies. It's scary. I love my life.
Yeah.
I enjoy my family. I love my parents. I want to get married. I want to see the world. To go into a place like that is scary,
Must be
and to
terrifying.
just be,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Now to end this podcast, I had a lot of fun, by the way, with you, and I got a lot of insights as well. And to end it on a lighter note, we share a common enemy, and the enemy's name is Pakistan, who have said time and time again that even though Israel has done nothing to them directly, they said that Israel is our mortal enemy, and we are the protectors of the Muslim world, so to speak. Give me one word for them as an Israeli soldier and Israeli citizen.
गाइस बिफोर यू गेट टू द लास्ट पार्ट ऑफ द पॉडकास्ट, मुझे आपको मेरा मिशन बताना था कि मैंने पॉडकास्ट क्यों स्टार्ट किया। ऑब्वियसली इंडिया में बहुत सारे पॉडकास्ट है, पॉडकास्टर्स है, बट वो उनके ऑडियंस को डम समझते हैं। बट अगर आपने वीडियो एंड तक देखा है, दैट मीन्स यू आर नॉट डम ऑडियंस, यू आर वेरी स्मार्ट एंड आई एम हियर टू डिलीवर यू दोस कॉन्वर्सेशन जिसमें आपको भी मजा आए। आजकल बहुत पीआर फाइड पॉडकास्ट हो गए वेयर पीपल आर आस्किंग लेजी डम क्वेश्चंस लाइक सर व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट दिस, व्हाट डू यू से अबाउट दैट, व्हिच इज वेरी लो लेवल स्टफ। दिस इज नॉट एन इंटरव्यू। मैं इंटरव्यू नहीं हूं भाई, मैं पॉडकास्टर हूं वेयर आई विल से माई opinions, and if I get pushback, fine, it's okay, I'm ready for that, but मेरे को मल्टी लेयर क्वेश्चंस करने हैं, मेरे को मल्टी लेयर आंसर्स चाहिए। दिस इज वेर आई थ्राइव और यही डिलीवर होगा, एंड दिस इज वेर आई नीड योर हेल्प। आई नीड यू गाइस कि अगर आपको ये पॉडकास्ट पसंद आए ना, तो शेयर विद पीपल हु ऑल्सो माइट लाइक इट, हु ऑल्सो माइट लाइक टू शेयर इट मोर, बिकॉज हमको वो चाहिए। हमको पॉडकास्टिंग इंडस्ट्री को रिवोल्यूशनाइज करना है, एंड आई नीड योर हेल्प with that. So please do the needful. Thank you so much for listening. Now let's get back to it.
lost.
Lost?
They're lost. That's what's happening. Nothing's good gonna come out. In one word, it's hard for me, but I feel like Iran and like they're lost. And if you want to even more direct, they are asleep.
I thought you were going
And
to say there's comebacks or something, but even I'll take that.
no, I don't, politically, if we don't have to be politically correct,
Yeah.
they're one of the biggest scumbags in world's history, and they're evil also.
Yeah.
Big, serious, and I read the stuff I read about them, it's to see what evil looks like.
Yeah.
Very similar to Iran, very similar, and it's not just sad. I don't. It's not just them being lost, and there's real evil there,
Yeah.
and for what they do and what they do to India, by the way, um, I think and I want to believe that light overcomes darkness and the good always wins. I have no doubt in my body that India will eventually destroy those evil people with their goodness, not just with their strength
Yes.
of the arm, which you have, and we know you have, but with who you are and what you bring to the table and to the world, hopefully you will defeat them. And scumbags is a nice way of putting them, but it's just something way, way much bigger than a group or a country, and
Yeah.
we're finding it together.
Yeah. All right. That's a good way to end the podcast. Thank you so much again for your time and your kind words at the end as well. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yes.
for what you're doing. Thank you for being part of a country that's giving us hope and light, and thank you for letting us share our voice. And hopefully, we'll be speaking again soon. And
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Toda.
Yes. Namaste. Bye bye.
Namaste. Bye bye.